Diane, as a parent of someone that has been diagnosed with something,
Autism.
what do you think would be the most shocking or surprising thing to learn for church leaders?
The church and the ministry leader doesn't have to be the expert. We are not expecting therapy. We have therapists. Think about the paralytic and his 4 friends. None of those guys, I can guarantee you, had a degree in special ed, but they cared about their friend and they were willing to do whatever it took to get that friend to Jesus. And I think a lot of times people feel like, oh, we can't ask questions, we don't want to be offensive.
Yes.
We don't want to be prying. Actually, at least for a family like me, like that honors me. That makes me feel like...
Diane, thanks for being here. I'm really excited. A lot of people may not know this yet, but at Amazing Life, we're really passionate about the neurodivergent space and helping the church come along on a journey of approaching kids that God sees the way, and helping them see them the way that God sees them, and trying to provide them with tools and resources in order to minister better. Because you know this, there's no junior Holy Spirit, and there's no, hey, like they have to learn differently or be ministered to differently. And I think historically in the church, we've maybe not approached it the best way. So can you tell me, like, why are you so passionate about this? Like, you champion things really well. So how did you get into this whole space, and why are you so passionate about it?
Well, for me and for my family, it's personal. Because we ourselves have a child with a disability. He has autism, and he was diagnosed at 2.5 years, and he's now 23. So it has been quite a long journey for us. And so we started off, in the thick of things as a parent. So it's very personal to us. And so we had been serving in a church as ministry leaders, but when our child was diagnosed, all of a sudden church was really hard for us. Mm-hmm. And so that is a very personal experience for us. And a lot of times it falls on parents to be the ones to advocate for their child and figure out solutions. And so for us as parents, it's like y'all, we're barely surviving and dealing with, the diagnosis and, struggling with God and what does all this mean? And then to give us the job of now figuring out inclusion, that's a lot. And so my motivation and passion for really trying to help churches know how to become inclusive communities is a very personal passion of mine.
That's incredible. So when you say inclusive, what does that entail? Because I think a lot of different churches can have a different idea. Is that just like there's a space for people that have a neurodivergent issue, or like a wavelength, or is there systems, programs, like in your mind, how does that work?
I think the first thing I like to do is kind of demystify and de-scarify the concept of disability ministry or special needs ministry, because I think there's a common misconception that it's like this really, all the bells and whistles, and we need to have a professional, we need to have separate spaces and all of that. And like for me, I'm a ministry ambassador for Johnny and Friends, and one of the things that I learned, which was so comforting, was disability ministry is just whatever you are doing intentionally to welcome and include families affected by disability. Wow. So just start with whoever you have at the time and whatever solutions that particular family needs. And so you don't need to have all the bells and whistles. Just start one individual at a time. Get to know what works for them and for that family. And so it's really small. And I think, that's doable. And isn't that the way Jesus approached people? He didn't come at us like, what is the program? What is the space you need? But he just got to know each individual person, their story, and created a solution that would work for him, for that person, and it ended up working for everybody.
Wow. Yeah, that's fantastic. You're demystifying a lot, but I think especially in the church space, there is a expectation or a thought pattern of like, well, we can't do that because I don't have a PhD in this. Like, I'm not certified. I didn't go to school for this. Do you think that that's one of the leading or biggest roadblocks in helping churches kind of figure out the next steps of, because you made that practical. You were like, just start here. But let's say I'm a church and I'm trying to figure out, like there's a kid and their parents are wanting to drop them off, but they don't integrate well. Like, what are steps that I can take in order to make the parent feel like not only is their kid safe here, but like they don't have to feel ashamed of like my kid is different?
Right. And so I could definitely appreciate the kind of intimidation factor. But I would also encourage ministry leaders, like think about parents. think about someone like me. I started off with zero experience as well. And I remember when our child was diagnosed, I was like, Lord, why didn't you give this kid to, a special ed teacher or a nurse or somebody that was qualified? But what do I have? And I think ministry leaders and churches can replicate this is one thing I always say is you just need heart and hustle. Because if you care and you have a heart, you will find a way and you will hustle. And so just even on an individual level, like my husband and I had no idea, right? But because we cared and we had a sense of urgency, oh yeah, we hustled to try to find solutions and talk to experts and read the books and all of those things. And on a macro level for ministries and churches, think about the paralytic and his four friends. None of those guys, I can guarantee you, had a degree in special ed, but they cared about their friend and they were willing to do whatever it took to get that friend to Jesus. And so literally you are coming up with out-of-the-box solutions. And sometimes it might mean busting through a box or two.
As a parent of someone that has been diagnosed with something like a disability, what do you think for church leaders would be the most shocking or surprising thing to learn from a parent's perspective when they show up at church with their child or with their kid?
I think one of the things is it doesn't take a lot. We are not expecting therapy. We are not expecting professionals. We know that this is not, therapy. We have therapists. When a family like ours wants to engage in church, we want to be welcome and we want to belong. And we don't want to be just a guest on a weekend, but we want to be a part of a spiritual family.
What communicates unintentionally or intentionally that you're wanted or valued from a church perspective? Have you had, and maybe you've had experiences where you've shown up and they didn't know how to handle, or they didn't, but like, I think sometimes, again, there's like, if you were demystifying it, they may do things that they don't understand have unintentional consequences.
Okay, I think one of the things that's really helpful is the church and the ministry leader doesn't have to be the expert because the parent is the expert in that child. And so just lean into the expertise of that parent and ask the questions. And I think I remember one of the most moving experiences when we tried to go to a new church, and we sat with the children's ministry director, and she apologized and said, we don't have a disability ministry. We know we need to, but what can we do to make this work? How can we come alongside your family? You are the expert. So it's kind of a help us help you.
Yeah.
And so you don't need to be the one to create solutions out of a vacuum. Just tap in and lean in and ask the questions. Help us help you. And so one of the things I talk about in my workshop is the first thing is to seek to understand us. Just ask the questions. And I think a lot of times people feel like, oh, we can't ask questions. We don't want to be offensive.
Yes.
We don't want to be prying. Actually, at least for a family like me, like that honors me. Wow. That makes me feel like you care. You have the heart that you want to lean in versus leaning away. And you're willing to push through whatever awkwardness, and you're willing to center me. You're willing to center our child and our family. And so you're willing to push through whatever, awkwardness. And I've had people say, at the risk of making a mistake or saying things the wrong way, because I don't know what the terminology is, but I want to understand. And so that honors me and our family that you want to make this work. That demonstrates heart and hustle.
That's really, really helpful. So when it comes to, like, I think you're very passionate about this, and I think because you have a personal stake and invested interest in it, what does it look like? Because I think we can look at where we've come from, and we're still trying to make strides, but in not a utopic world, but in a way to where we look towards the future. Like, what does it look like in your brain or your mind's eye that would be like, this looks more like heaven, this looks like the kingdom, and the way that we approach and have churches and spaces that are inclusive for all different types and people and walks of life?
I think the ideal would be that we no longer need a specific disability ministry because we have an inclusive culture. This is what we do. This is who we are. That everyone is welcome is in our DNA, that we don't have to be intentional about it because that is who we are and that's what we do.
That's amazing. And so, because I think that's what I've learned a lot. I think curiosity has actually really helped me feel like it's okay to ask the questions. Then it's okay if I don't know. And it's actually not offensive to ask, like, I don't understand this. Can you help me? I've been a kids pastor for 15 years. And one of the best things I've learned probably in the past 4 or 5 is the ideal situation is not, let's have a room where we just play VeggieTales so that the parents can stay in service, but it's inclusive. And how do we have a space to where everybody belongs? Like every child has a place in this room, and we're intentional about making sure that we're welcoming and every way and every which way that a kid can learn, like we've adapted and we've made sure that there's a place for them. But that's been really interesting for me. I think that was a mind shift for me of, hey, the goal isn't to have the best, like quote unquote, special needs room, which it's not a program. And it can also be very, and we talked about this a little bit last night in the first session of special needs sometimes the term of it can sometimes actually be a little bit limiting on kids who have trauma responses or kids who have another sort of neurodivergent like path. And so I've realized over the past couple years, the curiosity in me has just started realizing like, oh, that the goal here isn't let's put them somewhere and give them the best program so they have their own thing. It's how are we inclusive? And how do we not just do things that are bolted on to curriculum or bolted into our kids' programs, but they're baked in a way to where, hey, this is for everyone. Because I think that's what helps even kids who don't have a neurodivergent issue or path. It helps them understand like this is for all of us. Like we all belong here. It's not just for us and we have the special guests. It's all of us. And I think that's how Jesus sees it too.
And when we're talking about inclusive culture, and I think especially when it comes to larger ministries, it is easier for silos to develop, right?
Yes.
And definitely that applies to disability ministries as well, that a lot of times it can kind of devolve into, oh, the disability ministry leader or that department will take care of those kids or of those students or of that family. And it becomes their responsibility. So, you were asking about what's the ideal situation when we all have equal ownership and responsibility for each other. And what does that look like? I've seen some incredible examples. Just some of the stories I could share with you. Like one time, our child, because he runs ahead, and that's called eloping. And this was at a large church, and he, just bolted ahead. And the person who was serving at the reception desk was watching down the hallway because she recognized, oh, this is one of our kids. This is one of our, special needs ministry kids. He should not be alone. And so she was waiting to see who is with this child. So that's one example. Another example was one of our students' squishy toys was found. And our facilities team knew this probably belongs to one of those kids, one of our ministry kids. And so it's not junk. And so they saved it and put it on my desk. And so when I got to work, there was that squishy. And to me, that's so emblematic that it wasn't trash, right? It would be so easy to view it as trash, but they knew, oh, so everyone just had an equal sense of ownership that these are our kids, not just that ministry's kids.
That's fantastic. And I think you said it, I think it comes from a good place when people are trying to set up all of these different things. And now I'm going to be responsible for, but it is so much more like the kingdom for us to be like, oh, we all look out and take care of each other. So I love that. I think it's super inclusive. It was really that. I wanted people, I think sometimes when we don't have these conversations, people can work things up in their minds. Like that's really fun. And one day we'll get to like do a special needs ministry. And so I think it's important to have conversations that normalize and kind of break down these big mystical issues that are like, hey, it's actually not that hard. I loved your tiny steps. Like, hey, who has God put in your ministry right now? And what does faithfulness look like in that moment?
It really, whether it's a large church or a small church, it really doesn't matter. What we're looking for is not programs and bells and whistles. It's relationship. It's connection. Do these people care about me? Do I belong here? Am I missed? And really, that is just one family at a time.
That's fantastic. Well, thanks for having this conversation with us. I know this is going to be very, very helpful for everybody watching. Is there anywhere that people can find you? Like if they want to follow, like Instagram or anything like that?
Yep. So my website, Diane Dokko Kim, DianeDokkoKim.com, and all the handles.
Awesome. Thanks for having this convo, Diane.
Thank you. I really appreciate your heart for this, especially as a family. And for me, I always say that we were drafted into this life of disability and special needs ministry, but for those that enlist, you get a special thank you.
Yeah, it's an honor. So thank you so much.
Thank you.